Hello, hello, I am Capitao18. Today I'm bringing you a operator guide in Rainbow Six Extraction. Today we're going to be talking about one of the better operators in the game, Jager. There's a lot to get to with him. We have a lot to talk about. And there are some things that we want to compare in terms of Jager in Extraction and Jager in Siege, because he's one of the operators who got a very different set of skills in Extraction than he has in Siege. So let's talk about all that. Before I do, though, please remember to subscribe to the channel if you have not done that yet. Please remember to like and comment below what you think of these videos. We're coming down on to the final two. We got one more to go after this one in terms of operator guides, and we got all kinds of map guides and Maelstrom walkthroughs and stuff coming. I've got some really cool ideas cooking, so remember to subscribe to the channel if you like what you see. So let's talk about Jager. He does have what is called an active defense system, which is the same as in Siege, except that his is more of an offensive-oriented area control. And we'll talk about the differences in this versus what it's like in Siege. But let's read through it. Deploys an automated turret with 3 rounds. It will attack and intercept projectiles in an area. That attack piece is new. In Siege, it's essentially a mountable trophy system that will stop grenades and projectiles from being thrown into a specific area. It will automatically destroy them. In this case, with Jager in Extraction, it will attack Archaens. So there are 3 rounds at the start, and we'll talk about Jager at 1 and Jager at 10 here is a huge, huge difference, and we'll talk about why here in a minute. At level 2, you get a round increase to 5, and the recharge time is reduced, meaning that the rounds will recharge shorter. In this case, I'll go ahead and just tell you, and I'll show you this in game. If they use all of the charges in a short amount of time, the ADS will explode and do a little bit of damage. But if they don't do a specific amount of charges within a specific amount of time, they will recharge. And there's another element to that we'll get to in the in-game footage here in a minute. At level 3, you get the MP7 submachine gun. Great second level option. I will talk about his loadout here in a minute. At level 4, you get a damage reduction of 10%, which is among the lowest in the game. And so Jager's going to be right in the middle of the road in terms of damage taken, in terms of speed. But this is a light upgrade, in my opinion, and it feels balanced. It feels pretty well. It's just one of the lower upgrades in terms of armor. At level 5, you get a reload speed perk, which is reload speed, aiming speed, and weapon swapping speed is increased by 35%. It's a decent upgrade. I do think it is one of the weaker ones in the game. Candidly, I wish like IQ, for example, had this perk instead of her extra clips, but that's a different story for a different video. At level 6, you get the carbine, which is one of the main guns that I tend to use with him. At level 7, you get the turret damage increased to 63, and the recharge time is reduced even more. They don't tell you what the initial damage is, but this is an increase to damage, basically, here. At level 8, the armor upgrade of 20%, pretty low, honestly, but it's also, he starts pretty decently, and so you end up with a little bit more armor there. He is right in the middle of the road on both armor and speed, but he does not get a speed upgrade, so he gets 2 armor upgrades, which total 30%. 9, you get the Commando, which is my favorite weapon of his, and one that I use almost every time. And level 10, you get a round count that increases to 8. So you have 2 ADSs, and the round count is increased to 8. This is a little bit of an underwhelming upgrade, honestly. I kind of wish that they would, and I'll talk about this more in depth. I've got a video idea coming for this, but I think that they would benefit from having a recharge system on all of these alts, because there's certain utilities and certain operators that have rechargeable alts and some that don't. It just feels kind of weird that, like, for example, Fuse has a rechargeable alt, but Jager doesn't. It feels weird that Ella has a rechargeable one and Nomad doesn't. We'll talk about more of that in the game and in that video coming. So let's see what our loadout looks like. M87, I don't use this shotgun. I almost never use any shotgun. The MP7 is a great MP submachine gun option. It's a pretty fast fire rate, pretty decent damage. A little bit of a difficulty with the recoil here, depending on how good you are controlling that. You should be fine. It's a pretty great run and gun style option, and it's got a decent clip, it's got decent damage, it's pretty fast firing, so just keep that in mind. The carbine is also a good option. It's going to do a little bit more damage, it's going to fire a little bit slower, and it's going to have a lower clip. But here's the key with this one: the recoil is really hard to control here, so you just want to keep that in mind. I tend to use the carbine because it packs quite a punch. It's got a pretty decent fire rate. It's slower firing. It does more damage, but the recoil is much easier to control. I tend to put a, 1.5x scope here, and then I will put the vert grip compensator, and this is my main option, but honestly, any three of these are going to be great. His kit is pretty well rounded, and there is a gun for any circumstance, for any playstyle, so just pick whichever one you prefer. As always, he does have the P12, which is his only secondary option. You do have the option here to suppress or to put a muzzle brake on, just depends on how you prefer to play. As you can see, with the muzzle brake, you're going to do substantially more damage, and you're going to be able to control the recoil better, but you're going to be loud. And so if you're learning and you're growing and you try to take a more stealth approach, that's something that you can do. A lot of that is just personal preference. So let's talk about Jager. He is an area control operator, so he's going to lock down specific areas and help control them, prevent Archaean rushes, and help do some support. So you're going to kind of want to place his drones in specific areas. We'll talk about that here in just a minute. Now, the other thing that you want is you can kind of expand his kit with an auto turret and control an area even better. You can bring explosive harnesses, you can bring rust pistols. He brings a lot to the table in terms of what he can do, and so he can kind of free up your team to bring other things. But really, all of this is going to be personal preference, and we'll be doing a video on gear and explosives here in just a bit. So let's talk about some of this in an in-game sense. Let's take a look at some of this in-game footage so you can see it for yourself. All right. Here we are in game with a max level Jaeger. As always, this is a max level guide, so keep that in mind at all times as we're talking about this. So we have his P12, which is the only secondary option. I am bringing his Commando, which is my favorite primary. You can bring the MP7 if you feel like it, or just don't bring the shotgun, as far as I'm concerned. But, do whatever you like. So let's talk about some basics with Jaeger. So he is an objective defender, much in the same vein as like Gridlock or perhaps Smoke or Capitao. He does it slightly differently, and so there's a lot to get to, a lot to talk about. As I mentioned, you can expand his kit in that regard by bringing a sentry turret or whatever else your team needs. If you're bringing Jaeger, you're using him as a defender, so it really helps you to bring a option that expands that. Or if you're learning the game and you want to make fewer mistakes, revive kits or anabolic accelerant, whatever you prefer. So let's talk about his ult. So we'll pull this out. As you can see, it is a ADS system, much like it is in Siege. It does not, as you can see, as you're walking around here, it does not do anything until you mount it onto something. So we're going to put it right there. Boom. Now anything within a range is going to automatically be shot. There are 8 charges. When those 8 charges are shot within a short amount of time, it will destruct, and you'll need to find a recharge in order to use another one. So you can put this one down. You get 2 of them, and we'll talk about more about why that's an important element later. But this one will also have 8 shots, and you can then use them. So here's the other thing to keep in mind. While they're out, they will automatically recharge, assuming they don't take a certain number of shots within a short time. They will recharge themselves. But you can also pick them up, and they will instantly recharge all 8 shots. Same with this one. So the biggest thing to keep in mind is that you want to place them in a position that allows you to defend things, but also does not expend so many of the shots that it will automatically destroy them. Key point to remember here with Jaeger's drones is that they will destroy any kind of blinding spore, mines, anything in the area. They will also take out projectiles from tormentors or apexes if they come through that path. So you want to place it in a way that will help you and become sort of a defense point, but also don't place them. Let's say there's a bunch of blinding spores right here. There's like 7 of them, right? Or 9 of them. Place it right here. It's going to shoot all 9 of those, instantly go boom, and now you don't have one. So you want to keep that in mind as a basic tip. Some advanced tips for you as we walk through here and do some things with this map. Another thing to keep in mind is that they will destroy all targets. They do not discriminate. So you don't want to, as is the case here, watch what will happen here. If you're trying to do a capture or a biopsy and you place this right here, it's not going to discriminate against any specific target. And so you will automatically be destroying your target when you should be killing it with a biopsy. So don't worry too much about me failing there. I just wanted to demonstrate it does not discriminate against any target. Now, the important thing to remember too is that it eviscerates targets, so any kind of like breacher or bloater will automatically be destroyed and they won't blow up in a traditional sense. So let's grab some ammo here. So one thing to keep in mind is, as you saw there, that ADS got destroyed because it shot all of its bullets within a short amount of time. But if I were to pick this one up, it automatically recharges all of them. So let's get into some advanced tips here with Jager. There are some important things to keep in mind as you work through and learn Jager. One of the biggest important things is placement. So let's say we're doing a tower defense, and this is it right here. You can do one of two things. Let's say we're doing a sabotage tower, as I said. You can place your turret out here and prevent things from even getting close to you or your team. Let's place it on this guy right here. But you want to keep in mind at all times that the further forward that you place it and the closer to enemies that you place it, the more likely it is going to be that it will use all of its shots instantly. So I don't recommend this strategy unless you're going to also stand in front of it and become a sort of protector, because that will also, these are also destructible, meaning if a smasher or if I melee it, boom, instantly dead. So we're going to go find a recharge as we're talking here. So you want to keep your placement in mind at all times. I tend to prefer and recommend that you place it on back walls, up above lines of sight, so that it can defend without being destroyed and without it becomes sort of a last line of defense in order to prevent it from shooting all of its shots and going kaboom. There's a recharge. Okay, so a little bit of an advanced tip here as well is we'll put these down. And in much the same way you can with like Nomad or with some of the other operators like Tachanka who have recharges or who need recharges, you can place yours down in the airlock. When that door opens, this one's going to be closed and we're no longer going to need be able to access any of the recharge boxes. So let's go find another one. But then we can come over here. Let's say we grab another box. Boom. Instantly, we have 4 of them now at our disposal instead of 2. Now, it takes a little bit of patience and a little bit of work to do this, so I only recommend doing it if you're going to be using it on, let's say the next one is decontamination, like it is here, or sabotage, or some sort of objective defense. It's really useful to have 4 of these to do that, as opposed to 2. So I only recommend you do that if you're really patient, if your team is capable of pulling that off. And it's not always necessary, and it can take a little bit too much time on some of the later subzones, so it may not be worth it for you. So you want to walk that balance and walk that fine line. The other thing to keep in mind too, let's go back and grab ours, because I did not actually grab a box, I was just pretending, so let's go back and grab them, and then I'll show you some other basic tips. So once more, we'll recap here real quick and give you a little bit of an advanced tip with his placement. I will recommend, especially, let's say we're doing a sabotage tower right here, that you don't place that in a very high traffic place, because this is going to be a target for Archaens, meaning if a smasher runs through here, he's going to hit it, boom, it's dead, and now you don't have it. So you don't want to place it in places where Archaens are going to be able to reach it easily and where they'll be able to destroy it easily. So let's say there's a sabotage tower right in here in this room. Good place to do it is like right in here. Create a little bit of a line of sight. And then let's say this is a high traffic area. Rather than placing it on the ground right here, maybe place it on the wall right here. Let's go ahead and put that there. Let's just pretend there's one here, one there. And instead of placing it right here, you can place it against this wall. Anything that comes through is going to get shot, but it's less likely that they're going to come through here, see you, turn and go, oh, an ADS, I'll take that out. So you're getting the same benefit without having to worry about it being destroyed. It's a very, very easy thing to misunderstand, and it applies in different ways to different maps. And it's one of the things that's going to be key for you to learn about Jager as you progress and grow into the game. The other thing to keep in mind, too, is that these take a second to deploy and a second to take off the wall. So one of the things you want to do is set them up in advance of completing your objective. In other words, let's say there's a rescue target right in here. You don't want to run in, alert everything, go, oh, shit, and then start to put your ADS down, because it's going to take it a second. And by that time, your target's going to take some damage, you're going to get some howls, and now you're going to be fighting off more enemies than you would have need to. So you want to place these down in a defensive way. Now, they can be used in offensive manner, but it takes a lot more skill to do that. It takes a lot more practice, and you're going to need to master that before you do that. So thank you so much for watching. That is Jager. I hope you learned something in this video. Thank you so much for your support. We have one more guide to go. So remember to subscribe to the channel if you have not done that. And I will see you again next time.